Security Appropriation Bill.
I now invite the Honourable the Minister of State Security to present his budget vote. The Honourable Minister.
Honorable Chairperson of the session, our Chairperson of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence and other members of the Standing Committee, our Deputy Minister of State Security, Comrade Ellen Mlekane, Honorable Members of Parliament, the Director General of the State Security Agency, and the entire leadership of the SSA and membership, the leadership of the ANC that is here from various provinces, and the leadership of our leagues, the Mahlobo and Mlekane families, distinguished guests, and comrades and friends, and fellow South Africans. Honorable Chairperson and members, this year, we are celebrating 22 years of our hard-won freedom and democracy. Our budget vote and policy statement is being delivered to this August House just a day before His Excellency President Zuma addresses the nation to reflect on the long road we have traversed. The ANC-led government, as mandated by the majority of our people since 1994, reaffirmed its commitment to the attainment of a national democratic society as envisioned in our constitution of our land, the Freedom Charter, and other founding documents. Building a truly united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous society is a long and arduous journey, of which our former President Nelson Mandela spoke of when he said, "Yindlela indlela esihambayo." This society could not just emerge on the dawn of our democratic dispensation, but needed to be harnessed and built consciously by all the progressive forces of fundamental change led by the ANC. South Africa today is better placed to live in than it was before 1994. When we pause and look back, we have recorded strides, just to mention a few. Many state institutions have been transformed, instruments of accountability are in place, we have created thriving conditions for civil society and recorded massive gains in respect of the improvement in the quality of life of our people. However, we are the first to admit that more still needs to be done. This year, we are celebrating 40 years since the historic June 16, 1976 Soweto uprising. Our icon, the leader of our movement, President O.R. Tambo, eloquently articulated the value of young people when he said, I quote, "A country, a movement, a people that does not value its youth does not deserve its future," I close quote. Indeed, the country and her people needs to deepen its value to the youth and harness its potential. The youth in our country, like young people everywhere in the world, are searching for genuine ideals and values which they can live by, and for revolutionary ways to win them. Again, this year, we'll be celebrating 60 years of the historic Women's March of August 9, 1956 to the Union Building. This is an important epoch and one of the historic events in the struggle of freedom and women's rights in South Africa. Looking back today, we can safely say, in part, we owe our freedom to these heroines. But our journey is far from complete, as reflected in that petition of 1956, I quote, "We shall not rest until we have won for our children their fundamental right of freedom, justice, and security," I close quote. Poverty, unemployment, and inequality remain stubborn. Over the last few months, we have witnessed incidents of major concern to the life of South African society. We cannot claim to be truly free when insidious and blunted racism still exists in our society. We cannot claim to be truly free when racism still rears its ugly head in our institution of higher learning, in the media, in the private and public sectors, in the boardrooms, and the racist elements are becoming bold and arrogant. As South Africans, we should refuse to be part of this barbaric, backward thinking and inhuman belief that some races are inherently superior physically, intellectually, or culturally. Others, therefore, have the right to dominate them. If racism is allowed to manifest itself like in other parties here in our country, institutions, and other countries in the world, where racists are harbored and they sought refuge. It poses a security risk to our national security. It is a stark reminder of our painful past. It creates profound racial tensions and conflict in virtually all aspects in life in our society. Again, this year, we are celebrating 20 years of the signing of law of our Constitution. We are a constitutional democracy and an envy of the world. Our national democratic society is founded on the respect for human rights, the rule of law, good governance, independent judiciary, and independent media. Many political analysts and non-governmental organizations have largely viewed the promotion of human rights and promotion of national security as having inherent tensions. Some, they say, they treat the two goals as mutually exclusive. Either you promote human rights at the expense of national security, or you promote national security while overlooking human rights. Finding a balance on how to effectively address security while respecting human rights constitutes a key challenge of our times. The reality is that the two goals are interdependent and mutually reinforcing. Honorable Chair and members, as security agencies, we continue to discharge our mandate as provided for in the Constitution and other laws of the land. The global security environment has taken center stage for many states, and South Africa is not an exception. Globally, we have witnessed a number of emerging threats that have been elevated in terms of our trade curve, ranging from countering international terrorism, radicalization and violent extremism, economic meltdown, environmental degradation, forced migration, food security, unconstitutional regime change, color revolution, non-state actors in drug trafficking, proliferation of arms and ammunition, money laundering, financial crimes, and illicit economy. Despite the deterioration of the global security today, we have concluded as the security agencies of this country that we remain stable as a country and a region. However, we remain vigilant because our national security threats do not play themselves in a vacuum, but they come into a deeper, sharper focus within our own specific context. In our own backyard, for over time now, we have increased political contestation, governance challenges, and challenges of low growth scenario for our country and the world. The geopolitics of the world, wherein unilateralism, regime change, marginalization of youth and minorities, political and religious dynamics, the failure to resolve conflicts, and market capitalism as its glowing spark. These are the challenges we face globally. We are hard at work looking at the current security threats that require our deepest understanding of the actors and the tactics they use, using our own intelligence capability. South Africa, therefore, cannot take lightly any manifestation in our society and body politics that have the potential to advocate for unconstitutional change of government. State and non-state actors are hard at work in certain parts of our globe, using various role players to promote their narrow agenda while undermining national security of various countries. These actors are found in the mass media, in the non-governmental organization, community-based organization, foreign multinational companies that are being used, funding of opposition parties, religious and student organizations, prominent and influential persons, and running covert intelligence networks that are aimed to destabilize other countries who do not share a similar view. Attempts have been made in various countries like Libya, Syria, just to mention a few, where the question of legitimacy and the very legality of these governments were raised to disrupt their stability. This has resulted in untold sufferings for many. Some of these foreign agencies are even here at home, working hard to destabilize us, working with domestic forces who are wittingly and unwittingly collaborating with them. As a maturing constitutional democracy, we must be in a position to deal decisively with whatever challenge we face in our governance framework, whether be it economic, social, political issues. We must never yield to some domestic and international forces as South Africans that harbor intentions of creating conditions conducive for unconstitutional change of government. South Africa remains a sovereign state, and we command our territorial integrity. With regard to border management, our challenge about securing our borders remain because of the vastness of our land, the airspace, and the maritime, and because of the challenges we experience of corruption of officials, fiscal infrastructure weaknesses, inadequacy of our systems, and poor coordination. Our work continues with respect to the establishment of the border management agencies. We have recorded strides working together as the security agencies where a number of operations where arms, money, drugs have been confiscated in many of our borders. Access to resources is likely to continue. The economic conflicts, if they are not skillfully managed, they will cause a problem. We identify global illicit financial flows as a major security concern that knows no borders. South Africa, we are estimating that we are losing more than 80 billion rands per annum through illicit financial flows, while our continent is losing more than 80 billion US dollars per annum. These are the figures that were accepted by the heads of state in the summit in Addis Ababa. Approximately double the official development assistance that Africa receives. Indeed, the estimate may be well short, as accurate data does not exist for all transactions and for all African countries in terms of their capability. This phenomenon of illicit flows rob our continent of its potential of meeting the development goals, while other countries in the world, they have laws that have provided safe havens for these people who are hiding these monies. As a continent, under the guidance of the African Union and our regional bodies, our intelligence agencies are hard at work and we are following those individuals. We are working, including in terms of improving our technology within the structures of the African Union Peace and Security Councils. We have registered progress, even here at home, in dealing with the question of the illicit tobacco, working with the regional structures that we have dealt with these issues. And those who continue to do illicit trade of tobacco, our multi-agent task teams will be following them, and we are monitoring them. And we will be able to strengthen our relations with the South African Revenue Services so that that capability is there to deal with our issues. We committed to create an economic intelligence capability, and we are investing in that particular capability to respond and provide our government with the necessary support in our endeavor to grow the economy and enhance our foreign direct investment. Chairperson and members, we committed ourselves in the NDP around cybersecurity so as to create a secure, dependable, and reliable environment. Our latest information on cyber attack indicate that most attacks are no longer perpetrated by cyber jigs sitting behind computers, but rather by automated programs which run constantly with the aim of exploiting opportunities in people, government, business, and societies. Following our first cyber security conference last year, which we attended by a number of stakeholders outside government, we have agreed on areas of cooperation, and a plan of action has been developed in areas of cooperation like the development of policies, information sharing, research and development, building of capacity for younger cyber aspect, and more importantly, civic education and awareness. We are losing a number of billions of rands annually due to cyber crimes, and we have decided to establish a closer working relation with the South African Bank Risk Information Center so that we can deal with the questions about the monies that we lose through our banking systems. We have our critical information infrastructure policy in place. We have our government security incident response already in place. In March this year, we had to deal with serious threat of activists that wanted to put down government, and through putting the necessary systems, and our banks were warned, we're able to deal with that particular question. Already the cyber bill and related matters bill has gone through cabinet. We are receiving public comments, and very soon our committee working with Parliament will start the process to deal with these issues. We will continue working close with the BRICS member states and within the UN family. Securing our cyberspace will ensure conditions for peace, security development, that are enhanced. Chair and members, confronting and rooting out corruption remains a central feature of this ANC-led administration, especially corruption has a negative impact on our economy, and it has a potential to erode the authority of the state. Corruption poses a serious threat and direct threat to our reconstruction and development initiatives, good governance, service delivery, and ultimately stability, particularly at the local level. We will continue focusing on corruption with the public service and private sector, and we have done a lot of work. As noted, the Assess for Forfeiture Unit has at 483 of orders, 372, that is worth 372 million rands, more than 356 million rand recovered. And we're also going to be prioritizing institutions of government to ensure that our corruption strategies are implemented. We are on course in the implementation of our policies agreed for the vetting of all senior managers in the public service, supply chain management teams, officials working on critical infrastructure while extending the process to state-owned companies, rotation of staff, especially in the security cluster, investigating the possibility of a single vetting agent, and conducting lifestyle audits. People must be able to explain, how do you move from rags to riches? We will push for innovative ways of improving the integrity of civil servants, of key service delivery points, and going after those who run away from the vetting process. Because even some members here, there is one people who has just decided to run away from our committee, not to attend the vetting, and we must run after them. What are you hiding? Our constitution, in terms of section 17 of chapter 2 on the Bill of Rights, makes a provision, I quote, "Everyone has a right peacefully and unarmed to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petition," close quote. Many South Africans continue to enjoy these rights, but there are those within various sectors like education, public transport, labor, civil society, and political organization that continue to undermine these rights by engaging in wanton destruction of property, incitement of violence, defacing of statutes, land invasion, intimidation, and the loss of life. Some of these protesters are undermining the authority of the state by engaging in acts that seek to provoke the law enforcement agencies. Hence, some people have acted with impunity by killing members of our security agencies, and then we cannot agree to that. As South Africans, we should refuse to be part of this barbaric, backward thinking of some elements within our body politics and society by undermining other people's rights and freedom. Those of us who are sitting here today who believe in our democracy and claim to be defenders of the Constitution, your silence is deafening. We cannot continue to remain silent when Section 16 of the Constitution on the Bill of Rights is violated. As a reminder, what does it say? It makes a provision for the freedom of expression, which includes freedom of the press and other media, freedom to receive or impart information or ideas, freedom of artistic creativity, and freedom of academic freedom and freedom of research. However, this right has limitation, and the limitation clause is there in the Constitution. You can read section 16, subsection 2. This right does not extend propaganda for war, incitement of imminent violence, advocates of hatred that is based on race, ethnicity, gender, or religion, and that constitute incitement to the cause. Inkinga uma kwabavumela abantu uma kunohlanya ngaphakathi ekhaya. Uhlanya uma likhuluma kufuneka ungalenzi lutho. Kodwa uma uhlanya walinikeza umentshisi, kuyofuneka uhlanya ulibambe ngoba liyoshisa indlu. Those contravening these rights and freedom cannot be allowed to act with impunity. And it's a duty of the law enforcement agencies to ensure that we protect this country and our democracy without any fear or favor. Terrorism remains one of the major global security challenges of our time, a serious threat to international peace and stability, affecting every country and region in the world. Terrorism has assumed greater proportion, with attacks spreading for larger geographical areas with constitutional frequency. The attacks in Brussels, Paris, Jakarta, Mogadishu, Ouagadougou, and Bako are a testimony that the continuing threat to the world we're facing. No nation can act alone in dealing with this scourge. Since the establishment of the Islamic States, terrorist groups have been hard at work and their methods have been changing. The motivation, financing, and support mechanisms, the method of attacks and choice of target are changing with the use of new and sophisticated recruitment tactics and funding methods, as well as attempts of gaining and controlling these particular areas. We therefore remain concerned about the growing number of incidents on the African continent and the humanitarian and regional security impact in one of these countries, including South Africa. We remain concerned by the growing number of South Africans who are associating themselves with this terrorist organization. Domestically, efforts to be undertaken to identify South Africans who want to join terrorist groups and to prevent the expansion in this regard. In addition, we are working with certain communities in our land to curb radicalization and recruitment of young people on false and pseudo-ideology. Fighting radicalization is a societal responsibility. We need partnership between civil society, private sector, and communities to fight this scourge. The prosperity and advancement of our country is intrinsically and strictly linked to that of our region. The security challenges of the various regions of our continent are an indication that new and unconventional threats have necessitated more collaboration within the various structures in the region and other material institutions through the African Union. We recognize the role that South Africa should play, and then we cannot be an island in our prosperity and security in the sea of regional and continental instability. We remain committed to continuing cooperation with our counterparts in the continent and the world to combat the scourge of terrorism and extremism on the basis of South Africa's our own threat perspective. With respect to the work that our president has been leading, we know that we are in Burundi, in the DRC, in Lesotho, Libya, Central African Republic, and South Sudan. And ourselves as the security agencies, we continue to play our part. Chairperson and members, in relation to the strengthening of our capability and skills and professionalization, we have adopted that the Intelligence Academy will be the one that is leading this charge. Lastly, when we conclude, I wish to pay tribute to our serving men and women of the civilian intelligence structures, our veterans, the past and present leadership, as well as those who are no longer with us, for the dedicated and selfless contribution to our democracy, the well-being of our nation, the stability of our region, as well as that of the continent. I would like to take this opportunity to thank His Excellency, President Jacob Zuma, for his support and mentorship, the ANC leadership for the continuing guidance as they are here today, and the support provided to us as a ministry and a department. I would like to thank the members of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence for your continued support, guidance, and also being proactive in dealing with issues of national security. The ministry staff and our advisors, the Director General of the department, the leadership, and all the state security agency structures in our country. I also want to wish to thank my family for their unwavering support. I have my two daughters here. They say, this man doesn't want to sleep. What is he up to all the time? I have Joanne and Wendy that are here. And heartily pleased that South Africans are responding positively to the call of making national security a societal issue. Once again, let's be part of securing our country in terms of sovereignty, in terms of territorial integrity, in terms of our people, in terms of our infrastructure, national interest. NgesiSwati siyesithi nawe uliphoyisa. We are charged with this enormous responsibility of ensuring that South Africa is able to achieve its developmental objectives in a safe and secure environment. In our hands as leaders in this house, we hold the dreams, the hopes, and aspiration of future generation of this country. We do dare not fail them. Those okuthiwa ngongoma uyayona masingalahlekelwa yizwe sibakhuze bangayiqali impi yabulala. Honorable Chair, I humbly submit this budget for the Department of State Security for your consideration and approval. God bless Africa, her sons and daughters. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The next speaker is the Honorable September.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members, Members of State Security led by the DG Ambassador Kujo, fellow South Africans. Chairperson, tomorrow on the 27th of April, we will be celebrating 22 years of a stable and fledgling democracy. We will be celebrating non-racialism and non-sexism in South Africa. We will be celebrating 22 years of a capable ANC-led government, continuing the realization of the noble ideals of the Freedom Charter, continuing the basic principles of the Reconstruction and Development Program, and a budget that mirrors the implementation of yet another inclusive approach of developing and implementing policy, which in the uniqueness in South Africa's political history is called the National Development Plan. Chairperson, it is recognized that a relationship exists between security and development in that it influences a country's developmental processes. The well-being of South Africa and its people in its 15 years of democratic local government is evident in our achievement. We have now life expectancy in South Africa increasing in what was 53.4% in 2004 to 62.5% in 2015. South Africans are living longer. We have provided 3.7 million different housing opportunities, which means that a home has been provided to about 12.5 million South Africans. Also, 95,000 households in the informal settlements have been upgraded. Chairperson, national security in its broadest sense concerns state security, which is security of persons, institutions, properties, and national territory, not forgetting, of course, human security, social security, and the environment, amongst others. This budget will allow us to embark upon what we will term nation building, the basis on which to build a South Africa, which in turn can support the development of our continent, Africa. Nation building requires us, Chairperson and honorable members, to link reconstruction and development in pursuit of security for her people. The key to this link is an infrastructural program that will provide access to modern and effective services like electricity, like water, like telecommunications, transport, health, education, and of course training for all our people. We celebrate the ANC's achievements across the country in that over 5.8 million households have been electrified from 69.7% in 2002 to a whopping 86% in 2014, mostly benefiting from the indigent support system. Between 2001 and 2014, access to pipe water increased from 61.3% to 90%. So too the provision of free basic water. The quality of lives have been changed where people live, which is one of the core values together with freedom, with social justice, with prosperity and development. Notwithstanding many challenges we still experience in South Africa, we are confident that domestic stability in South Africa can and must be realized through government's 9-point economic plan. In this program, we will revitalize agriculture and agro-processing to address the climate change-related human security threats of drought, of high food prices, of heat waves and water scarcity, and sometimes floods as well as fires. This budget, which is about policy and economic choices that we support as the ANC, Honourable Minister and Honourable Deputy Minister, must do a lot to address this human threat of drought in the same manner that government has brought stability to the rhino poaching as part of environmental threat. Chairperson, economic security allows a country the freedom to follow policies to develop a nation's economy in a manner that addresses, in our instance, the economic inequalities that address poverty and unemployment. This budget, while in real terms has a reduction in spending, must prioritize economic intelligence in support of radical economic change we need in South Africa. Many countries have opted for shock therapy, for austerity, for selling of state assets to the global financial crisis. We cannot follow an approach that will weaken the state and reduce services in health, free education, and job creation. Unlocking the potential of small businesses, cooperatives, will bring stability in townships and in rural areas. This will go a long way to address the challenges experienced amongst the poor and radicalize the economy to benefit all people. Chairperson, we agree cybersecurity is an important aspect of national security and the safekeeping of a nation's constituency and resources. As South Africa has now climbed from being 67th in the world to 22nd on cybercrime, we think that more education is required to make South Africans, especially the poor and vulnerable, feel more safe and secure with regards to cybercrime. What we would require further is that an integrated program based on people's needs provides peace and security for all, it builds a nation, and it links reconstruction and development, and indeed it deepens democracy. What we have in South Africa is that 120 municipalities have been assisted with infrastructure planning, with implementation and maintenance. It is worth noting that in Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, systems have been put in place to address the title deed backlog that are now showing fruits, as it is illustrated by handing over of 97 title deeds in Motherwell, and an additional 4.6 billion rand has been budgeted to speed up the provision of sustainable human settlements in the city. Dramatic improvements in the municipality's financial situation, and it now has 1.7 billion rand in cash holdings in the bank. The municipality has the same credit rating as some others. No other municipality in the country has a higher credit rating. The municipality has initiated several community campaigns to clean up the city, most notably the Love Where You Live campaigns, and these has been quite successful. Chairperson, Minister, we know that our Constitution had provided us with a doctrine that promotes the creation of societal environment that is free of violence and instability, respect of the rule of law and human life. Section 2, Minister, of the National Strategic Intelligence Act states that when you identify any threat or potential threat to the security or of the Republic or its people, it also says that this threat must then be reported to the President. Minister, we think that you should consider a meeting with party leaders to promote awareness and education on what this section means, as we note of late one of the leaders swearing on a platform to remove the commander-in-chief and another wanting to remove the government with the barrel of the gun. After all, Minister, this needs to be investigated as it can be a threat towards the state. After all, the state and its people must always feel safe in South Africa. We have agreed both in our Constitution and subsequent legislation that we must all contribute towards building a non-racial and non-sexist South Africa. When the sparrowish and longing for the past racism reared its ugly head in South Africa, we are reminded that peace and stability requires the whole of society to participate in peaceful and conflict resolution and vigilance in our communities. It is the duty of state security to safeguard this Constitution, uphold the Bill of Rights, and provide cooperation, national prosperity, and of course, look at foreign threats. This budget must take us further to realize our tremendous opportunities in which our people's lives can be secured, and in so doing, continue to make South Africa a beacon of hope, as well as Africa and the world. Local government is in your hands. Vote ANC. I thank you.
The next speaker is the Honorable Groenewald.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Members of Parliament, Honourable Minister, guests on the gallery. Daniel Cole said, leadership is not domination. It is the art of persuading people to work towards a common goal. If you look at the analysis of the judgment at the end of the Nkandla Road, it is clear in the Constitutional Court finding that President Jacob Zuma broke his oath to uphold the Constitution because the President failed to comply with the remedial action as specified by the Public Protector. There is no other option, no other court of appeal, short of giving up to the rule of law and governing by the might alone. To read through the judgment, to hear in one's mind the voice of Chief Justice Mugong once again, is to remind the just how sordid, awful, and plain illegal the Nkandla scandal has been all along. Then there is the Gupta scandal, where a family influence on the economy boils down to the hijacking of the state. But that is not where the saga ends. Oak Bay Resources and the withdrawal from the South African banks doing business with the Guptas, the allegation with regarding to nuclear power, and the latest with regarding contracts need serious investigation by all the security entities of this country. All around us are people who break the law on a routine basis because of the rotten relationship between the President and the Gupta family. It seems that if is a norm within the ruling party where influential members are implicated in fraudulent tenders allocations. How many times have we seen blue light brigades breaking the speed limits, or Maseratis outside the ANC events without number plates, or some unfit people being appointed as head of national prosecuting authorities, or the Hawks? How many times have we just shook our heads and thought that is simply cannot be? One of the reasons of many people feel so good about this Constitutional Court ruling is that it confirms what we have known all along. The man at the top doesn't obey the law, and he has set an example for many other people in the ANC. I quote the words of Alexander the Great. An army of sheep led by a lion is better than an army of lions led by a sheep. Closing quote. A matter of big concern is the suspect ISIS agents visit to a Durban school on Wednesday the 13th of April. The question is then whether ISIS was on a recruitment drive at the Durban school that day. Parents of children at the Northwood High School raised their concern after two visitors of the school from Saudi Arabia, accompanied by a South African, handing out DVDs and pamphlets to some of the grade 12 learners. Parents fear the promote of extremism, and it could be seen as an attempt to recruit members to the Islam State. If we look at the challenge on South Africa borders, this indicates a typical and easily related to the poor border control. There is not enough personnel available to defend the influx of illegal immigrants to South Africa. It is not a wonder that there is rumors that extremists find a safe harbor in South Africa. This minister needs serious investigation and needs to assure our residents that is not the case. Firearm-related crimes is increasing at an alarming rate in South Africa. Some illegal firearms enter South Africa market as a result of smuggling activities across the borders. South Africa losses revenue as a result of border crimes that lead to non-payment of duties. Border posts are understaffed, and some even lack the basic facilities to undertake effective border policing. There is a lack of communication between the agencies working in the same field, resulting in the loss of valuable information on crime and crime syndicates. Corruption is a fact that needs to be dealt with immediately. You have only three choices of life: give up, give in, or give it all you've got. Cybercrime, and the minister also mentioned it, and we're all worried about it. Cybercrime is becoming a bigger and bigger threat to the safety of all South Africans as well as government. Vernon Fryer, Chief Technology Security Officer of Vodacom presents alarming statistics from Vodacom Cyber Intelligence Center, revealing a 150% increase in the number of DOS, distributed denial of services, attacked in the past 18 months in South Africa. The country has suffered from the most cyber attacks in Africa during the course of last year. Are South Africa sufficiently protected by legislation? The African Union Convention shows that South Africa is far behind as cybersecurity is concerned. Government as well as the private sector must work together in this regard. The task of maintaining the safety and security of society is critical to the success of all government programs. Therefore, the focus must be on matters of national interest, including terrorism, sabotage, subversion, and organized crime. How is it possible that thieves robbed SAP's Crime Intelligence Unit in 2015, while it is supposed to be one of the most secure buildings in Cape Town? The building houses critical information in investigation into organized syndicates, gangs, and drugs. There have been 5 break-ins in the last year alone from within crime intelligence officers, which is supposedly to be secure as Parliament. The DA would like to know whether the moral of subs are still high to protect South African intelligence with pride, or whether it is just another job what needs to be done. The importance to fill the vacant post of the general position cannot be overestimated, and the importance to appoint the correct candidate in this position is in the interest of all South Africans. It is crucial that the person must have no baggage and should have high moral integrity to serve South Africa and its people on the level of intelligence. Let's forget cadre deploying, as well as the placing of a candidate in this position with the necessary skills, and therefore the DA proposed that a retire adjustment is being designated for this important position.
Honourable Member, your time has expired.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. In conclusion, action is the real
Honourable Member,
measure
your time
of
has
intelligence.
expired.
I
Thank you. The Honourable Matiase.
House Chair, thanks very much. I stand here on behalf of our member, Honourable Prokosa. The EFF is our last hope for a safer South Africa for all, not just for those who are associated with the Gupta family. The EFF is our last hope for freedom and security, free from all forms of violence from either public or private sources. The EFF is our last hope for
Order, honourable members.
that has the Constitution as a supreme law, where we will respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution at all times. South Africa's intelligence community ceased to exist the day the men of integrity who warned against state capture by the Guptas were all removed from state security agency. The intelligence capacity built over years since 1996 was all destroyed only to allow for state capture and looting of state resources. Transnational crime networks involving arms, drugs, and human trafficking and money laundering are now operating with impunity because they know intelligence work is non-existent. And it is these reasons that the EFF does not support the State Security Agency budget vote. Signs were there. First, it was the illegal landing of the Gupta private jet at the national key point in breach of national security. Mr. Zuma must not think we forgot about that. And now that it is indisputable fact that the Gupta family is responsible for appointment of ministers, it means Mr. Zuma has handed over powers assigned to him according to Section 91 of the Constitution. What Mr. Zuma is doing poses a serious threat and direct threat to good governance, service delivery, and stability. And it is for these reasons he saw it fit to destroy intelligence community, reduce it to incompetent persons. The so-called traditional security threats are no longer the biggest security threat to South Africa. Our biggest security threat to our constitutional democracy and possibly to the damage of our record of peaceful and fair elections is the ANC, is Mr. Zuma and the Gupta family. While other African governments are dealing with temptations of unconstitutional regime change, Our security threat is desperation by the ANC to win elections at all costs. We have seen what they can do in Alexandra, in Tlokwe, in Polokwane, and it is for this reason that Mr. Zuma saw it fit to destroy intelligence community, reduce it to incompetent persons. It is so bad that the state security agencies sometimes rely on the EFF to learn about new developments and possibly security threats.
Honorable Matiase.
We have the first.
Honorable Matiase, will you just stop there? Honorable Member, why are you rising?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. No, Honorable Chairperson, I'm rising on a point of order where the member is using the language that is not, that is misleading the country, that the president is destroying the community, the intelligence community. That is.
Honorable Member, that is not a point of order. And there are other ANC members in the debate who can deal with the statement that the member is making. It's a matter for debate. Continue, Honorable Member.
Thanks, House Chair. It is so bad that, the state security agencies sometimes rely on the EFF to learn about new developments and possibly security threats. We were the first one to alert the nation about the appointment of ministers by the Gupta family. As the EFF, we do not support the state security budget. As we speak here, House Chair, the country is under the grip of paranoia, militarization of the state, and police state. As we speak now, we are reminded of the early 60s, when the racist, fascist regime of apartheid took our leaders to long-term imprisonment on cooked up charges of treasons and the likes. The more
Order, honorable members.
the more things change, the more they stay the same. The ANC, you are ashamed. You are ashamed, and you shall soon be exposed. How you have come to replace that which the ANC sought to undo. And we say, you've got it now to correct yourself.
Honorable Member,
The
your time
revolution
has
is
now
coming
expired.
and is going to sweep you out of the way. The economic freedom
Honorable
fighters give a final
Matiase,
warning
your time
to
has
all of you.
expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members, before I recognize the next speaker, please, while we allow interjections, you are not allowed to drown the speaker. It's difficult to sit here and to follow what the speaker is saying. Order. You are not allowed to drown the speaker, to allow the presiding officer to be able to hear what the speaker is saying. Otherwise, I won't be able to make a ruling. Order. I didn't ask for a reply, honorable members. Honorable Kebekulu.
Thank you, House Chair. Honorable Minister and Deputy and honorable members. At the outset, let me say that Inkatha Freedom Party supports this budget vote. In respect of the post for the Inspector General of Intelligence, the filling of this position has now become extremely urgent. Not only is it a constitutional requirement, but also imperative for the well-functioning of this organization, and yet this vacancy has been without an incumbent for an inordinate long time. The office has important duties which are presently being left unattended to. We will urge the ruling party to find a people's person who is a person that the vast majority of South Africans trust to fill this post, which is why 2/3 majority is required by law for the election of the incumbent. It goes without saying that the suitable candidate should be acceptable not only to the ruling party, but to the opposing parties as well. Otherwise, his or her appointment will be continually stifled and this important office left unable to function. The IFP remains deeply concerned about xenophobic-related violence, which has been persistently perpetrated in South Africa since 2008. Many of our citizens in this country, especially the poverty-stricken and unemployed, believe that their fate is aggravated by these illegal immigrants who they claim are stealing their jobs. Then there are purely criminal elements who hide behind the mask of xenophobia in order to perpetrate looting sprees on those who are legally in this country and trying to make a living. Bringing an end to xenophobia requires a multi-pronged approach, and state security must assist government in gathering critical information to inform this approach. Porosity of our borders and illegal movement of people, stolen goods, narcotics, the spoils of the poaching of our wildlife remains rampant in the department, and the department must assist our Home Affairs, police, the Defense Force in the prevention of such illegal activities. An issue that also remains of concern to the IFP and requires a comprehensive investigation and an explanation is the recent media report that a cargo plane transporting South African Reserve Bank notes from European country ended up landing in one of our neighboring African countries and was found to be carrying the body of a person who to date has not been identified nor his country of origin known. In conclusion, we reiterate our support for this important budget vote and support for keeping South Africa, its citizens and interests safe. Chairperson, my last input on this debate. Si izwe lakithi lisenkingeni inkampani zama security, Chairperson. Inkampani zama security eyikhona kakhulukazi ngizobhekisa kwezamatekisi embuthweni wezokuthutha embonini yamatekisi. Lapho khona abantu bakithi belahlela imiphefumulo yabo besematekisini ngenxa yombango wolayini bamatekisi. Kufa abagibeli bengenacala, kufe nabanikazi bamatekisi. Okuyinselelo enkulu umbuso obhekana nayo okufuneka uyibheke. Uma sebesibhekele isecurity lelizwe kufuna sikubeke phambili futhi ukuqonda ukuthi umbuso usemkhankasweni omkhulu wentuthuko ezweni. Okugcina kodwa yonke le ntuthuko icekelwa phansi yilabo basuke bekhalaza ngezidingo zabo. Becela phansi umsebenzi osuwenziwe wombuso. Okugcina sihlalo sibuka isimo la khona izwe lakithi usuku nosuku sizwa kwabezindaba kushiswa yitimela kwenzakalana embusweni yilawo mazwi engashiya sihlalo. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is Honourable Ngwabe.
Thank you, Chairperson, Minister, Deputy Minister, the leadership of the department, the honorable members, distinguished guests. Good morning. Honorable Chairperson, South Africa is a sovereign state with its own flag, natural resources, our national anthem, our constitution, democratically elected government. This in its own means that South African citizens must at all times feel safe and protected from any kind of invasion or terrorism. The African continent is well known to be so rich in natural resources, such as gold, platinum, coal, oil, and other resources. And this makes the former imperialists and our former colonizers to be after this continent at all times. These former colonizers can employ whatever strategy to loot this continent once again. This therefore means, in as much as protecting our citizens is so crucial, but protecting their resources is also equally vital for our people to continue to enjoy their independence and sovereignty. The State Security Department is the key in performing these duties. Without this department, it would be impossible to protect our citizens and our natural resources. We all know that the former colonizers will never let this continent to be totally free, especially in their well-rich resources. We all well know of the economic hitmen who go around influencing our developing countries to take loans, unjustifiable loans, from these Western masters in order for our countries to continue to be slave to these former colonizers. With the terrorist activities growing daily all over the world, as we saw in Germany, in France, in Nigeria, and other parts of the world, we need a very well-resourced State Department with the highly trained personnel to provide us with early warnings on these terrorist activities. Chair, the NFP would once again applaud this department for saving the lives of a number of young South Africans who were on their way to join these terrorist organizations. This is the kind of security we want, and this is the kind of the work that must be well funded. In conclusion, Chairperson, the NFP will always support peace and stability in our country. It is for these reasons that we support this budget, and we are optimistic that it will be used responsibly in a manner that continues to protect our citizens, our sovereignty, and our natural resources. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable the Deputy Minister of State Security.
Honorable Chairperson of the session, Chairperson of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, Minister of State Security, management and members of the agency, the Mulekani and Mahlobo family, comrades and friends, ladies and gentlemen, fellow South Africans. Chairperson, today's budget vote takes place during the historic month of April, a month wherein we celebrate the 22nd anniversary of South Africa's constitutional democracy, which was ushered in by a historic vote on the 27th of April 1994. We stand on the shoulders of many of our forebears, some of whom paid the ultimate price for the freedom and democracy that we enjoy today. Our country is celebrating its 20th anniversary of the signing of our Constitution into law. The General Intelligence Amendment Act number 11 of 2013 defines domestic intelligence as gathering intelligence on internal threat or potential threat to national security. It behooves me to draw the attention of all South Africans to this definition, as we have over the past few years witnessed the steady build-up towards what we see as an attempt from certain sectors in our society to change the current government in a manner that is unconstitutional. Chairperson, as a part of the security cluster of state, we have a responsibility to provide timely and dynamic intelligence to the state in a manner that seeks to advance our national interests underpinned by national security. As we debate this important budget and policy statement, steps are afoot to implement the recommendation of the Constitutional Court judgment in respect of the President's private home in Uganda. As compliance is underway with the Constitutional Court ruling, there are those who opportunistically seek to cast aspersion on the integrity of the President and the government he leads. It is important to mention that there is a growing concern of those who want to turn the current process into a theatrical episode through political point scoring, which is aimed at undermining the very foundation of our democratic values. The case in point here, Chairperson, is the attempt to use the Constitutional Court judgment as a basis to engineer an unconstitutional removal of the current government. This fifth democratic administration is a legitimate government which came about through constitutional means. That is, it has been duly elected by the majority of South Africans through the power of the ballot. Any political party, individuals, groups of people who want a change of government have to go out there and convince the electorate about their policies, programs, and contest elections and win them. This is the only legal way that is provided for in our Constitution. While we recognize that our Constitution provides, amongst other things, the right of freedom of expression and association, these rights must be exercised within the letter of the law. Any attempt to push an agenda that seeks to undermine our territorial integrity is therefore utterly objectionable. It is against this backdrop that we should take note that not everyone in the world is a friend of South Africa. The fact that we espouse a Pan-Africanist agenda which entails unity, peace, stability, development as encapsulated in the African Union Vision 2063, does not augur well with some who view it as a threat to their pursuit of looting Africa's natural resources. I would like to quote from a foreword by His Excellency Mr. Jacob Zuma in a book on Madiba's journey entitled Portrait of a Leader, where he says, "It was through Mandela that the world learned the spirit of endurance, the triumph of forgiveness, and the beauty of reconciliation." Madiba's life has been an inspiration in South Africa and throughout the world. It is the responsibility of every one of us who has been touched by Madiba's magic to make his dream our reality. In this regard, Chairperson, we remain fully committed to upholding the visions and values of Madiba and continue to build good relations with communities of the world. It is common knowledge that in our interconnected and globalized world, cyberspace is borderless. Apart from terrorists using cyberspace through which to conduct their activities, there is a continuous increase in malicious cyber activities in increasing sophistication across our national security threats. It is worth highlighting that cybersecurity occupies the center stage of our dynamic capabilities. The need to continuously upgrade our cyber infrastructure and capacity to put us on par with the best performing security agencies in the world is informed by the imperatives of global interdependence. Apart from ensuring the improvement of quality of our products, information and communication technology, it helps in the early detection of unscrupulous intruders and hackers that threaten the security of our infrastructure and undermine our resolve to protect our country. Significant strides have been made through the Government Computer Security Incident Response Team in protecting and enhancing the security organs of the state, parastatals, cyber infrastructure and networks by means of proactive services that are aimed at prevention of cybersecurity incidents through alerts and warnings, as well as reactive services which are aimed at providing technical assistance in the handling of incidents and mitigating the resulting damage. This year, in partnership with the private sector, we will hold the first week-long cyber challenge, bringing together top-performing maths, science, and technology students from across the length and breadth of our country under one roof to participate in various educational activities, presentation, and competitions. This cyber challenge will culminate in a cyber expo to be held at the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research in Pretoria. South Africa is seen as a country that offers both legal and illegal migrants vast economic opportunities. The past 20 years or so, South Africa has, however, witnessed an ongoing proliferation of foreign-owned businesses. This has resulted in economic competition between foreign and locally owned businesses, particularly in and around South Africa's informal and urban areas, which has become a key contributor to anti-foreigner sentiment and attacks. Chairperson, Minister Mahlobo, in his speech last year said, "A criminal is a criminal, irrespective of nationality, and should be made to face the full might of the law. If indeed some foreigners are involved in crime, we cannot mete out collective punishment to all foreigners because of the criminal deeds of the bad few individuals. Therefore, we will not tolerate criminality from either South Africans towards foreigners or foreign nationals. As the state, we will continue to act against those who are illegally in the country, as it is our responsibility to ensure that all of us comply with the rule of law and uphold the Constitution. Working together within the security cluster, we have recorded strides in dealing with transnational organized crime. In this regard, in the State Security Agency, it actively involved in conducting joint operations with the South African Police Services, Financial Intelligence Center, the South African Revenue Service in efforts to target the so-called high flyers within the illegal drug industry. Ideological extremism remains a concern the world over. We have seen a rise in radicalization, including individuals who are prepared to fight on behalf of a state that is non-existent to commit heinous acts of terror. We must support all global initiatives that ensure that and relate to fighting terrorism. We have to continue all efforts to preventing recruitment of especially our young people from among our communities through social media and the internet. Today, radicalization and recruitment for extremist and terrorist groups do not require our children to leave the house. It can happen in the home, at school, at university, or the workplace via cyberspace without the knowledge of families and friends. I wish to call on all parents, our teachers, clergy, employers to pay attention to what our children and young adults are keeping themselves busy with in cyberspace. Chairperson, honorable members, security concerns continue to result in challenging circumstances that require of us as nation states to improve our cooperation, as we cannot hope to have any measure of success if we act unilaterally. In line with Vision 2063 of the African Union, we will continue to support a secure and peaceful Africa to ensure that guns are silenced by the year 2020. As we all are aware, the causes of conflicts in Africa are social and economic exclusion, competition over natural and mineral resources, proliferation of weapons, gender and income inequalities, discrimination on religion and ethnic grounds, and the violation of presidential constitutional terms of office. We must remind our people that international relations are based on mutual trust, respect, recognition of our humanity, and solidarity. South Africa continues to be involved in conflict resolution engagements in Africa. The situation in the Great Lakes, the Horn of Africa, North Africa, continue to pose major security concerns in our continent. The phenomenon of terrorism remains a key sector and a concern to all of us. As the guarantor of the Burundi peace process, South Africa has been involved in finding a lasting solution to the impasse in Burundi following the election fallout. The continued involvement and efforts made by South Africa in Burundi resulted in President Jacob Zuma's appointment to lead the African Union high-level delegation to Burundi on the 25th and the 27th of February this year. As previously stated in my budget vote of 2014, I undertook to build our human resource capacity with specific emphasis on core business, that is security and bolstering tradecraft. I am happy to inform this House that a lot has been achieved in this regard. During the first quarter of 2016, we have had an intake of hundreds of cadets, 60% of whom being women. In conclusion, we want to reiterate the supremacy of our constitution in our democracy. We stand before this House to recommit ourselves that we shall spare neither strength nor effort in pursuit of our mandate as enshrined in the Constitution, which is to maintain national security. The resources allocated through the budget against depressed domestic and international economic conditions will be effectively and efficiently used to improve capacity of the department to respond accordingly to the
Honorable Deputy Minister, your time is now expired.
threat picture. The ANC supports this budget.
The next speaker is the Honorable Gumede.
Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, and all esteemed guests, good morning. The ANC supports the budget on state security. Syndicates are increasingly becoming a concern in South Africa. There are a number of reports with respect to crime syndicates that deal with drug trafficking and child abuse, as well as human trafficking in South Africa and in Southern Africa. These syndicates are mainly involved in drug and substance trafficking, human trafficking, as well as illicit cigarette trade, among others. Trafficking in drugs is an illegal practice of procuring or trading in drugs and substances used in preparation thereof for the purpose of commercial trading with the motive of making a profit for an individual or a syndicate. As a result of drug trafficking, a number of South Africans find themselves imprisoned for long jail terms in foreign countries, mainly as drug mules, and that is people targeted by drug syndicates to transport drugs knowingly or unknowingly from one country to another. According to a paper of the National Youth Development Agency, that is NYDA, authored by Cindy Swatsotetsi, often drug mules are hoodwinked into believing that they are being offered legitimate employment. They are then sent abroad for what drug lords call training, or ask them to collect work-related imports. Once they are in a foreign country, they are forced to do things that they would not normally agree to, like swallowing large amounts of condoms filled with drugs. Drug syndicates are increasingly targeting young people in South Africa to smuggle drugs, and the number of young South Africans in foreign jails is increasing. That increasing problem should be arrested before it spirals out of control, the paper adds. But before we attempt to successfully deal with it, we should understand the factors attributed to that increase. The NYDA paper lists the following factors that it attributes to exacerbation of the problem: relaxed visa requirements, dramatic increase of international flights, movement of large numbers of people legally as well as illegally across our borders, poorly monitored borders and ill-equipped customs, lack of awareness and vigilance from our largely gullible communities. Border control needs to be improved as part of the solution. That is why the government cluster of government, the security cluster of government, has proposed a legislation for the formation of a border management agency, where one agency with all capabilities and resources, which as we speak are controlled by different departments, will be under one command and control. There will be a single accountable authority responsible for planning, leadership, organization, and control. They will be responsible for one major priority, and that is border control, with its different complexities under a competent executing authority. The country needs this agency as soon as possible to be able to arrest many problems arising from a poorly managed border. Legislation to that effect is now at NEDLAC, and we urge all stakeholders to treat that legislation with the urgency it deserves. That would be necessary, but not enough, as these crime problems involve domestic syndicates as well. The drug lords first built trust in the vulnerable youth, and now increasingly young women are being targeted, and in this regard, drug trafficking has an element of human trafficking because of the vulnerability of young women. The number of human trafficking cases reported to police suggests that this syndicate crime is on the increase as well. Syndicates recruit children and youth using deceit or force, exploiting their vulnerability. The ANC believes that to combat syndicate crimes in particular, we need to create more awareness among our youth of this scourge and take a number of measures like strengthening community safety forums and forming street committees as part of community efforts against crime. Encourage municipalities to enter into partnerships with business against crime and community-based organizations. Strengthen the enforcement of municipal bylaws and anti-dumping maintenance of a healthy environment, and prevention of illegal trading. Embark on massive campaigns against drug and drug substance abuse in our communities. Involve traditional leaders in crime-fighting efforts in rural communities. Strengthen municipal courts to service communities effectively. Reduce vulnerability of our youth by engaging them in sports, cultural, and community activities. The above would be part of an improved security systems infrastructure that would assist not only overt intelligence, but make South Africans safer and make them feel safer.
Honorable member, your time has expired.
Oh my God.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable Schmidt.
Honourable Chairperson, it is common cause that the Inspector General of Intelligence must bear the trust of the public in ensuring that the security services are properly monitored. The DA therefore believes that the IG should be a retired judge, who by virtue of his service as a judge has demonstrated independence, impartiality and fairness. The process of appointing an IG should therefore be conducted in an open and transparent process. This is not what the ANC believes nor practices. It unashamedly and deliberately, until as recently as last month, unsuccessfully tried to manipulate the processes in the JSC and Parliament by trying at least 3 times to ensure that the former ANC MP be appointed as IGI. To make matters worse, this candidate was also the previous chair of the Intelligence Committee, appointed by the President on behalf of the ANC, supported by the ANC, and no doubt placed there to protect the interests of the ANC. The ANC unashamedly pays lip service to the notion of accountability and openness, and that those candidates who were nominated and shortlisted were interviewed behind closed doors. As dear representatives on the JCI, we refuse to be part of this scam by not attending any of those closed interviews, which expectedly led to no other than the name of an ANC member being forwarded to Parliament to be appointed by the President. This was the preconceived plan of the ANC in the first place.
Honourable members.
To be more precise, the ANC candidate was appointed in the previous parliamentary term by President Zuma as the chairperson of the JCI. Ultimately, the Speaker tried to apply pressure by means of a letter addressed to all parliamentarians to support their ANC candidate, most likely at the instance of President Zuma. Despite these attempts, the ANC failed to have him appointed as it could not muster the majority required in terms of the Constitution. We are therefore repeating this process of appointing the IGI. In this regard, the CVs of all shortlisted candidates, which we did on Friday, should be made public before and during the interview process. As stated in the budget debate last year, we will not be intimidated nor coerced by the ANC in appointing an ANC hack behind closed doors to the benefit of the ANC and President Zuma. The DA will not support any ANC hack to this important position in the appointment process. However, this is not the
Honourable
only
members,
abysmal failure.
please don't drown the Speaker.
However, this is not the only abysmal failure by the ANC government. The white paper on intelligence, which guides the department in matter relating to the intelligence, dates back to 1995, 1 year of the advent of democracy, whilst the Intelligence Service Oversight Act, which heralded the new intelligence dispensation, was adopted in 1994. Both these documents have not been subjected to revision, despite numerous undertakings by the department to do so amidst changing circumstances. The DA will not support a campaign to credit NGOs whose bona fide task it is to ensure that a hard-fought constitutional democracy prevails. Nor will we support an outdated...
Honourable member, your time is up.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member Schmidt. I will now call upon Honourable Member C. Ngakula.
I defer to you, Chairperson, and the honorable members of this House. And the first thing I want to do in this debate is to lift up my fist to the memory of 3 comrades who died during this month, who were part and parcel of those soldiers who fought for the liberation of our country, to enable all of us, therefore, to be participants in this debate, among other things. I want, as I do this, to refer to Solomon Kalushi Mahlangu, who was killed in 1979. And the racist regime decided to hang him on the 6th of April. Not because he had to be hanged, but this was vengeance that the racist regime was exacting, not on Mahlangu per se, but on those who were prosecuting the struggle for our freedom. And of course, they took the 6th of April, which they referred to as Jan van Riebeeck Day, to do this. I also want to raise the name of our lovable Comrade Chris Hani, who was killed by a rabid racist on the 10th of April in 1993. I worked with him. He was my general secretary, and I was his deputy. And of course, Oliver Tambo, that giant of the liberation of our motherland. When I spoke at his memorial service, I said, among others, and I stand by what I said on that day, that the bullet that killed Comrade Chris Hani was the same bullet that put OR to death, because of the love that Comrade Tambo had for Comrade Chris. The second thing I want to do, honorable members, Chairperson, is to state the obvious, Minister, that those who win wars, any kind of wars for that matter, or threats, are those who have the best intelligence services. The other matter that should be obvious to all of us is that terrorism, the biggest threat to humanity, especially in this century and perhaps the next one, is here to stay. And no country can swear it is safe from that phenomenon. Many are the battles that the international community will win against terrorism. But the war will be very, very long. The greatest weapon against instability and insecurity all over the world is well-organized, appropriately equipped intelligence services that must know long before the bubble bursts that some threats are percolating within the various communities of the world, and properly analyze those problems in order to allow for effective deployments to deal with such matters. Of course, some intelligence agencies lie to their governments when they want more money for personal agendas by presenting false flags of operations. Some of the agencies have even caused the downfall of their own governments by propping up opposition to their administrations when their governments realize they are being conned. South Africa fits into all the things I have said. We are not immune to terrorism, and neither are we cushioned against other circumstances that usually escalate into instability. Many of us, inside and outside of this house, usually make the inappropriate assertion that our country has no enemies and should not properly equip our armed and security forces with the necessary tools to protect our people. Terrorism, as I've already said, is a global threat to instability, and we ought not to believe it will never affect us. The Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence has the obligation always to pose the question: is our intelligence community properly structured for it successfully to be able to deliver the tasks defined by their mandate? Are those deployed in intelligence combat ready to pick up impending threats against our country? Do they have the necessary training and equipment to defeat our enemies in every corner of the battlefield, including with respect to the cyber front? Despite objections by some in our country, including the honorable member, there is nothing wrong in seeking assistance from those who have better experience than us in the profession of intelligence gathering. The African National Congress has friends across the globe whom it will never forget, as Madiba would say, in pursuit of newly found friendships. These are countries that helped us when we were prosecuting our national democratic revolution to liberate our country and install democracy for all our people to enjoy freedom from all forms of oppression and exploitation. When we need training, therefore, in intelligence and on other fronts, we shall go to the Russians, to the Cubans, to the Chinese, and others who helped us in our struggle, and we shall not be apologetic. Our intelligence community must remember all the time that the remaining enemies of our people after the fall of apartheid feed off the scourge of joblessness, which gives birth to homelessness, starvation, illiteracy, and preventable diseases. The absence of jobs introduces tensions in people's homes. In a number of instances, couples even separate or divorce. Those circumstances spawn service delivery protests. I know that at times those legitimate expressions of dissatisfaction are exploited by forces with nefarious agendas. Fact, though, is that the government should address people's expectations before they germinate and grow into deep discontent. It is the job of intelligence services to see problems of that nature and character. Long they've become what in Latin is called casus belli, the cause of war. Honorable member, I was brilliant in Latin. That comrade there knows nothing about Latin, I'm sure. He would never have known what casus belli means, not him. Intelligence must then inform government and insist government acts in time by providing the necessary service. Service delivery protests are more often than not a response to the discovery by citizens that their government does not provide service.
Ngagula, may you please take a seat? Honorable member, may you come in?
Chairperson, can you just guide us on the length of time allocated to this member? Because I've got 8 minutes and 30 seconds so far, and as far as I can see, he's been allocated 7 minutes. Thank you.
Honorable member, you can rest assured that he's still within his time limit. Actually, you must trust me in the manner in which I'm guiding this.
So how much time has been allocated
He's
to
still
the member?
within his time limit.
How much time has been allocated?
9 minutes.
9 minutes, thank you.
I thought, honorable member, you would appreciate the lessons. Citizens know that government does not provide service because the country's material resources are diverted into the pockets of some in the state hierarchy and the public service. They know why they have no access to water and why the roads in their communities are pockmarked by potholes. They know why dumps of refuse have grown up like mushrooms where they live. Money to deal with those problems has gone into the pockets of the councillors. Intelligence, therefore, has the added task, which is very important to maintain stability, to fight corruption wherever it raises its ugly head. The Minister of Intelligence must not be immobilized by friendship or deference and show reluctance to expose corruption in government and elsewhere in the line of human endeavor. Those involved in corruption must be dealt with by the law enforcement agencies without fear or favor.
Honorable member, your time is up.
Thank you.
Just on a point of procedure, Honorable Member Ngagula was allocated 7, but then through internal arrangements, there was a sponsor of 2 additional minutes. So you continue trusting us with doing the right things. Honorable Member, thank you very much, Honorable Member Ngagula. I will now call upon Honorable Member DJ Stebe. Thank you very much. Order.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable
Members of
members,
Parliament,
order.
Members of the intelligence community. Minister,
Honorable members,
soos dit nou maar
order.
gaan in 'n verkiesingsjaar, waar daar meer klem gelê op die sogenaamde sukses van die regerende party, wat eintlik maar 'n stemwerwingspoging is, maar ons moet eintlik by die ware toedrag van sake kom. Ek wil vir die agbare Nkakula sê baie dankie vir wyse woorde en 'n goeie geskiedenisles. The political threat to South Africa is as much socio-economic, political and defense related. The threat manifests in external and internal influence, and the changes derive from emerging world trends such as organized crime, human trafficking, money laundering, border security, aviation security, and terrorism, as well as the impact of the current drought on SADC region as a whole. We also need to look at our neighbors in SADC. Namibia is said to have violated the United Nations sanction against North Korea when the North Koreans built an ammunition factory near the capital of Windhoek. In Angola, the Secretary of the Interior discussed cooperation in the matters relating to sharing of experience with North Korea, but it might also be that these experiences relate to the violation of the United Nations sanctions against North Korea. In Mozambique, the opposition party RENAMO is on the uprise since January 2016, and several incidents occur where civilians were targeted following armed clashes between government forces and opposition fighters of Alfonso Dhlakama. Many Mozambicans have fled from their province to the refuge camp in neighboring Malawi. On our own soil, challenges of an economic nature is in upscale and includes issues such as organized crime, money laundering, border aviation security. The current drought is a serious threat in terms of food security. As a result of the drought in the SADC region, it is expected that we will have an increase of refugees who will look at South Africa to survive the predicted food shortage and to find jobs. This will put our own economy under tremendous strain because we experience a similar situation in South Africa due to the severe drought. Job creation is under severe pressure due to the closing down
Honorable
of various
members.
mines through the country as a result of dumping of cheap steel products by our so-called partners from China. Together with looming strikes in the labor market and the mines, our social burden will increase in the country. The current onslaught on Metro Rail in the Western Cape is nothing less than sabotage, and it is these issues that need the attention of our intelligence community. Suid-Afrika staan ook voor sy grootste grondwetlike krisis. Onlangs het die grondwetlike hof beslis dat die president die grondwet oortree het in sy hantering oor die openbare beskermer se Nkandla verslag. Dit het gelei tot 'n poging van die Demokratiese Alliansie en die oppositiepartye om die president in 'n saak van beskuldiging te plaas. Maar die regerende party het die grondwet en sy plig
Honorable
versaak.
members, order please. And honorable member, your time is up.
Thank you very much.
I will now call upon honorable member JJ Skosana.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister of State Security, Mr. Mahlobo, and Deputy Minister, Honorable Melekane, Chairperson of the JSCI, and members of the JSCI, Director General of the State Security, Ambassador Sonto Kuje, and members of intelligence community, honorable members, distinguished guests, fellow South Africans, I greet you all. Let me start by saying ANC support this budget vote, number 7. Honorable Chairperson, during 1994, the South Africans voted the first democratic government and gave the ANC a mandate to rule this country because of their trust and belief on their policies. It was the first time all South Africans, irrespective of race and or color, participated in the elections of their own government, the government of the people. Today, all our citizens enjoy the rights that is enshrined from the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. This was not automatic for them to enjoy their rights. This was through their tireless fight with the government of apartheid. During 2014 national elections, the majority of South Africans again gave the ANC a mandate to govern this country. This is an indication that the ANC cares for the people of South Africa. They have said nothing about UDA and EFF. Honorable Chairperson, we are concerned about reports of sexual violence in the country, and in particular, the recent Roots University demonstrations, rape, and sexual assault on our young women on university campuses. I must say, loku kokuhlukunyezwa kwezingane nabomama asihambisani nako si-African National Congress. Kwenzekile eKamil Refir Bila phe Dr. Jess Moroka umntwana one-11 years adlengulwa ngubaba one-38 years. Kanti futhi nalapha eMbibane umntwana one-18 years obefunda isikole udlenguliwe emavekini amabili. Lo mntwana loyo wazohlongakala last week simngcwabile. Isigebengu sisengakabanjwa. But what we are saying, sibawa ukuthi umbuso wenze okusemandleni ukuthi bonke abenza lokho kubi mababoshwe bavalelwe emajele. Our law enforcement agencies continue to identify measures to deal with these heinous crimes. As part of government's commitment to support victims of sexual violence, 33 regional courts have been upgraded into sexual offenses courtrooms. Collective efforts with the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex groups, civil society organizations, and government departments in the JCPS cluster are beginning to yield positive results in this regard. The state security, as part of the JCPS cluster, prioritized its work towards the elimination of socio-economic impediment of crime and criminal activities. These were demonstrated during the foreign nationals attacks by people who do not love peace, and this operation was successfully carried out by JCPS. The Operation Fiela is the program that could assist us to fight crime in this country if it can be done once per quarter, Honorable Minister. Basic service to previous disadvantaged communities remain a core priority of government to reduce and tackle poverty. Government continues to work hard to foster peace, stability, and security in the country. However, the above-mentioned constraints curtail the speed at which the lives of all South Africans are improved, and we have seen a substantial increase in protest action across various sectors and industries. South African Constitution enshrines the right of citizens to protest peacefully and unarmed. However, when protests threaten lives and property, they pose a challenge to stability and the authority of the state. The sharp increase in violent community protests, labor unrest in the various sectors of our economy, for example, mining, education, post office, waste removal, transport, taxi and rail, as well as student protests in its efforts to voice concerns and complaints, threaten domestic stability and the authority of the state. Ranked by the World Bank as an upper middle income country, South Africa is the second largest economy in Africa after Nigeria. Despite the above, the World Bank reports that while the economy continues to grow, growth is at a lower rate than previously forecast as a result of various external and domestic factors. In as such as the ANC-led government has made tremendous strides in improving the socio-economic conditions and improved the livelihood of millions of South Africans, constraints on our economy hamper the consolidation of gains made. Let me try to deal with some other issues raised by the opposition parties before I continue. Honorable Chairperson, the issue of DA, talking about the president who broke the constitution and blah, 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 I must say that is a distortion of the outcome of the court. The court never said the president has broken the constitution. When you say the constitution, you are talking about the whole book, the whole rules in the constitution. The court has talked about the implementation of the recommendations of the public protector. That's the part in the constitution which the court has spoken about, not what you are telling us now. And you are busy continuing attacking the ANC through the president. You are saying the president is in business with the Guptas. And that, I want to clear it. U-president agasi ku-business nama-Guptas. Ungahamba uyokucheka ngeke umthole upresident bathi nguye obereka nama-Guptas uya ecompany nama-Guptas uyokusebenza. Lento nitshela i-country fanele siyilungise bakhona ukuzwa ukuthi ayikho lento enichoko. And futhi okunye fanele nikwazi u-president of this country uyawulandela umthetho, he obeys the law. Ukuthi u-president akawulandela umthetho akulona iqiniso. U-president uleader le country ngoba elandela umthetho okhona eSouth Africa ngo-1996. You are talking about an IG appointment.
Order.
You are talking about an IG appointment. Why are you preempting the results of an IG appointment? Because that process is within the JSCI as we are talking now. Last Friday, we were shortlisting the candidates who must come and contest for that position. Any DA, beyikhona, nezinye inhlangano bezikhona mas-shortlista. Manje beza la ngaphambili, bafika basitshela ukuthi i-IG bafuna a suitable candidate. According to me, a suitable candidate is the candidate that meets the requirements. Hayi lento bayishoyo. Honorable member of DA, my colleague Smith, i-thinking yakho yokuthi ufuna i-retired judge be IG, liphupho engeke lafezeka. Le retired judge yakho ayi-applyanga, kubi applyile, beyawushortlistwa njengabanye ba-shortlisted, bese iya-contesta. And enye into, faka nama-earphones ngikhona ungizwa kuhle ngifuna ukukhuluma isikhethu. Enye into, nizonda u-badges with passion nina. Niyamzonda u-badges, and thina manje sikhuluma nge-appointment of IG, asikhulumi ngo-badges. Last year, sayenza le process. Umuntu wamit ama-requirements, kwaba ngu-badges. Nagijimela ngeparlament na ukujamisa lento ukuthi aniyileti two-thirds majority. Namhlanje seniqala i-retirement judge, nithi akube ngiye appointwako, nifuna ukugijima futhi nimise, sithi kini, yekelani ukusetela i-African National Congress i-agenda. Yekelani ukusetela umbuso lo i-agenda. Tina we know very well ukuthi umuntu ofanele appointwe ngilo muntu ozobe amita ama-requirements, full stop. And the process, your appointment kwe-IG is publicized. Why nizokuthi today nifuna ukuthi publicizwe? Because yenze yaba open, the media was part on Friday, and we'll continue with that, so that the media ibe part. Why, in fact, what do you need from us ukuze mhlambe we satisfied about this process? EFF is not an organization that can be a hope for South Africa. It's an organization that is disrupting all the programs of the country, all the programs of the government. Isizwe masibabone ngezinto ezibovana bakhona lapha emphakathini. Bazongena kini bantshele ukuthi balungile. La eParliament baphikisa yonke into, baphikisa ibudget, baphikisa ukuthi sicatshe ijaji. Yonke into esizanayo bayayiphikisa. Kodwa ke bazitshela ukuthi bayihope. Program yabo ikhuluma ngeGupta, ikhuluma ngenkandla solo bafika la eParliament. Lezi ke sesisebenzile ngazo, I don't know ukuthi program yabo yokuba yini khe ngezwe ngathi bakhuluma ngeland. Land belongs to all of us.
Honorable member, your time is up.
Oh, thank you very much. The ANC support the budget.
Thank you, Honorable Member J.J. Skosana. I will now call upon the Honorable Minister of State Security.
Honorable Chair and members, thank you very much. Firstly, on behalf of Comrade Deputy Minister, we acknowledge our special guests for the future pipeline of our country. The students from Morova High School in Tabanchu, we have Nochachame Chibane, Sheldon Mohato, and Offenso Silo from the University of Free State. Thank you very much for being here. Well, with respect to the debate, we are very pleased that a number of parties, we are coming to the party to understand that national security is everybody's business. But we must also admit that there are those amongst us who are still holding on to the DA past when we discuss matters of national security. We must be able to indicate that the responsibility to secure our country is for all of us. And South Africans, we must be able to know that there are those amongst us who don't actually, they think that they cherish Franon, France Fanon. But they come here, they tell lies, they claim easy victories, and they actually do not obscure our difficulties. There are those who have made their mission to work with other people of the world to destabilize South Africa. We know, as intelligence services, some people who are from other political parties, they were caught carrying guns. And I'm on record that immediately you think that you have the right for freedom of expression, which is limited in terms of section 16, subsection 2. You can't have a propaganda for war. And the law enforcement agencies are going to act. We must also indicate that as South Africans, we must know who we are, where do we come from, what do we stand for. Not everybody is our friend. The forces that were opposed to us, they are hard at work. We have seen how Russia has been pushed economically. We have seen how China is being pushed economically. We have seen how Brazil is being destabilized because of the direction we have taken. Now there are South Africans who are collaborating with some of these foreign forces. We know, and they are using certain instruments. One important issue, our NGOs, they play an important part. But there are those NGOs who have made their preoccupation to destabilize the state. And we're not going to be shy to deal with those particular institutions. Well, Honorable Member Mainir,
Order.
you know that you are fortunate to sit here. You ran away to engage with us. The responsibility to deal with the question of the terror threats.
Honorable Minister, your time is up.
We want to thank you very much for all the support, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I see Honorable Member is rising. Honorable Member, may you come in? Okay, there's no one on the podium. Honorable Member.
Oh, no, thanks, Honorable Chair. No, Honorable Chairperson, I'm trying to check this, whether is it parliamentary, and I think the minister must, do some proper investigation around this. But Honorable Staff has just sent me money
whether is it proper that a member can bribe another member, because that is called you know, money laundering.
Okay, honorable member,
Chair, a cheap watch make the,
Honourable
the,
members,
the
order.
most noise.
honorable members, your conduct, please. It must show respect for the House. Otherwise, members, you are reminded that the debate on rural development and land reform will take place at 14 hours in the National Assembly chamber. That concludes the business of the Extended Public Committee. The meeting stands adjourned.